let's say a client is yelling at you or you're in a very difficult situation, understanding how to breathe through that so that you can make the best decision possible. Maybe you're up on a ladder and and you're nailing some shingles on an eave, or you are exposed up on a lift and you're like, I'm up 3 stories and that's a pretty long fall. Regulating your breath comes in very, very handy. Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today's Q&A is, why have you started Sauna Camp and what is boot camp? So I'll probably take the 20 minutes here, 10 minutes on each to describe both. If you've been following the podcast or Instagram, you'll know that I do a lot of training. I've gotten into ultra running here the last couple of years. I've always been a pretty avid athlete between basketball and tennis and hockey and whatever sport that I am currently into. I'm very passionate about talking about it. And I have found athletics, team building, all those things to be super, super helpful for owning a business. And because we are in such a stressful field, constructing homes, we talk all the time about how emotional it is. I feel very strongly that not only myself, but our community, we need releases, we need resets, we need a place to, refocus and to get off a lot of that energy so that you can show up and do your job. And so, being such an avid fan of these things and seeing how they've helped really transform my life and my wife's life and just our family as we raise our kids, trying to show them what's important, I realize that this isn't just lip service. Like, just like a diet is not just a momentary thing, like if you need a lifestyle change. And so it's really just embracing the things that you love and, finding a community that is really into it. And so for me, I have all these ideas. I've said before that, usually Monday to Wednesday, I come up with 10 ideas, and then Thursday and Friday, I have to figure out which ones I have to say no to, because I just come up with a lot of ideas. And so for me, I basically, if I find something really, really interesting and I'm curious about it and I want to, see who else is interested. And so I'll usually call 4 or 5 people and I'll say, hey, I'm really interested in this. Do you think, is this something that you would be interested in? And they say yes. And I'm like, fine, I'll make a business out of it, or I'll make an idea out of it. So the Sauna Camp was the first thing that was more approachable. It's going to be held on the 24th of January. And it's going to be on Lake Minnewaska, just west of Excelsior here in Minnesota. It's going to be a half-day event, and it holds up to 60 people. So we've rented out the entire camp. I think we have about 10 people that have already signed up, which is pretty early, actually, that we've had that many people sign up. I want it to be open to anybody. So anyone that wants to network with, builders, designers, architects, anyone in the building, or honestly, any business owner. My goal is that everyone would be a business owner, and that, while we're, partaking in wellness, and as we're learning things about ourselves while we're sweating in the sauna and the kind of the Finnish nature, as we're cold plunging into the lake. But there's also going to be a component of breath work. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But the goal is that, like, whether you talk about business or not, it's just the community. We have such a strong community in Minnesota. And I think we have a strong community of builders across the country. So I know there's several people that are flying into town. And Brad Robinson, who I'm good friends with down in Atlanta, Georgia, shout out to him. He's flying up. He might even bring some of his team. Caleb McDonald up in Toronto, he might come down. And before you know it, you've got 6 or 7 people flying in to basically take a sauna together and cold plunge, all because they might be passionate about it already. I know Brad is. He sends me pictures of his cold tub. I know Brad Levitt is a big cold tub guy down in Arizona, although you'd have to be if you lived in Arizona. You live in a sauna, you would need to get into a cold tub. But there's been such a celebration of this wellness and the effects it has on your body physically, but mentally it's massively important. And I think with like cold water, if you can sit in cold water and train your mind to be calm, like when we get into stressful situations, like we can get through it. And, I'm not going to get into all the different things that we're going to cover, come to the camp. And so what it's going to be is it's a half day. I think we start at 1:00. And her name is Dr. Mel Krug. She's going to be a facilitator. And so I think it's for like about an hour. There's a meeting area, kind of a chalet up by the lake. And we're going to basically sit down and we might even lay down, I believe, and I think you put something like a blanket or something over your eyes, and she works through somatic breath work. I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but basically think of like yoga or deep cleansing breaths, and I believe it's a way to kind of work through maybe your feelings, your emotional bandwidth, stressful situations. So you think of, let's say you're in sales and you're about to go into a really pressure meeting, taking a few deep breaths and understanding how to regulate your respiratory rate and your blood pressure before you go into a meeting is going to make you feel more calm and more relaxed. Let's say a client is yelling at you or you're in a very difficult situation. Understanding how to breathe through that so that you can make the best decision possible. Maybe you're up on a ladder and and you're nailing some shingles on an eave, or you are exposed up on a lift and you're like, I'm up 3 stories and that's a pretty long fall. Regulating your breath comes in very, very handy. And there's also the wellness and of course the health side of it from athletics. A stressful shot at the free throw line, or maybe the game is on the line, or whatever sport people play on the side. There's so many applications. We obviously are humans, we all breathe. And so understanding a little bit more about it, I'm a little shocked that we don't actually have this as a more regular thing that we're aware of. So Dr. Mel Krug, she does a lot of corporate seminars where she walks people through how to, regulate their breath and how to do it in a community setting. Then we're going to go down into the water, into the lake, and we're going to practice using the breath techniques we just learned in the cold water. Many people are familiar with Wim Hof. He's really a celebrated outdoor enthusiast that, you can actually regulate the temperature of your body, your heat, through breathing. You can fire up your engine, and in cold environments, you can actually get hotter. I believe he has, been in glacial waters, Arctic waters, and can actually increase his respiratory rate and increase his actual temperature output to offset the cold, which is pretty wild. I don't think we're going to get that deep in one day or 1 hour, but you can see where this is going. And I have some experience in going to cold water. There's a cold plunge that I use regularly in running. Last winter, I went out with an architect and a friend of mine to Lake Harriet. Actually, it was 2 winters ago. And we went in there, and the advice was if you can just make it past the first minute, kind of your fight or flight kind of leaves. And then after that, it becomes a little bit easier. And, you don't have to stay in a long time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's not like you have to show, who's the craziest. That's not really what this is about. It's about challenging yourself and then really just kind of getting this endorphin flush of blood when you get out of the water, and it's really rejuvenating. You feel very, very alive. So then at the camp here, we're going to go straight into, there's 8 barrel saunas that will hold up to 60 people, in these different 8 saunas, and they're all wood fired saunas. So they smell great. You've got kind of this cool finish. They've got big glass out to the lake. So it's very serene, very quiet. Obviously, what I like about this is that they are small person saunas. So they're going to, hold anywhere from 6 to 10 people. And what I really like about it is now you're going to have small, discussions in there. People are going to talk about life. They can talk about health. They can talk about their business. They can talk about, why are we at sauna camp? How did Mark get us here? Why don't we do this more often? Or I have a sauna in my backyard. I didn't know. I mean, I love this. I wish I had a lake. And so I find that, having traveled a bit, and gone into some of the sauna culture, especially in the Nordic countries, it's just this really warm, inviting place where people just kind of open up. I have a sauna that I built during COVID in my backyard. And maybe an hour before, I probably use the sauna about 3 times a week to aid in recovery. And I just I like you sleep incredible after a sauna. When you're really warm, and then as your body cools down, it basically does something to your nervous system, and it's like lights out. So I sleep extremely deep. But where I'm going with this is it seems like the sauna has become part of our neighborhood culture. So I'll send out a text to 4 or 5 of our neighbors, and I'll say, hey, I'm going to the sauna at 8 o'clock after the kids go to bed. Who's coming? And, I don't know who's going to show up. Maybe nobody shows up. Maybe 2 or 3 people show up. One time I had like 6 people show up and they wouldn't all fit. I have a pretty small sauna at my house. And, but it ends up being this great place that we usually do a 20-minute session. We'll go outside and cool down or rinse off with the hose because I don't have a lake right next to me. And then we'll go back in for another 20. And so understanding that you do kind of these small segments and kind of regulate it, it's great. And I have found it to be so helpful in recovery, but really it just is sort of amazing what it does to you mentally. So sauna camp is really just that. It could be open to anybody, but because I'm a builder and because I have the Curious Builder podcast, I thought, you know what, I'm going to invite the building community to do this with me. And there will be a lot of people that, hey, this isn't for us, but I think I hope a lot of people decide to say, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. Why not? What do I have to lose? And then the fun part is after, I think we're going to do the cold sauna, cold sauna, cold sauna. And then we're going to have actually a Mediterranean style meal prepared over an open fire. And I've heard from other past attendees that this cook or this chef is amazing. So we'll all have a meal together back in the chalet and, just kind of bond more kind of family style. And so I feel like our community has so much to share together. And so I really hope this is something that resonates with business owners who we're already doing such, we have so many tough decisions to make. Taking some time to focus on your wellness and hopefully learn something new about yourself. That's really the point of the sauna camp.
Lake Society magazine is Minneapolis' premier target market boutique lifestyle and design publication. It embodies the unique lifestyles and design of the Minneapolis City Lakes neighborhoods. From Lake of the Isles to Lake Harriet, it showcases the best in local design projects by both premier builders, architects, and interior designers in this area. Lake Society magazine has the look and feel of a national publication with glossy covers, high-end finishes. It's mailed directly to upper bracket single-family homeowners in the City Lakes area, and it's the perfect local coffee tabletop publication. Subscriptions can also be available through the website lakesocietymagazine.com. Additionally, publisher and founder Karen Steckel has over 27 years in the local magazine publishing industry and has a passion for high-end photography and quality graphics. Her commitment to quality, visual simplicity, and beauty are strongly reflected in her beautiful Lake Society magazine.
The second thing is the boot camp. So, of course, this is a logical next step is the sauna camp is a half day. I mean, honestly, going into a sauna and going into cold water is you can do it. Anybody can do it. The length of time is really up to you. So I know you can do it. The boot camp was something a little bit bigger goal, a little bit not more difficult, but someone that wanted to challenge themselves a little bit more. And where this came from was every year. In fact, I'm going next week up to the Boundary Waters with some family and some cousins and a couple of dear friends from across the country. And I, over the years, have found that this week, is one of the most recharging weeks of my year. And what I mean by that is when you go up to the Boundary Waters, which for those who aren't familiar with the Boundary Waters, it's a series of, thousands of lakes up on the Canadian and Minnesota border that you can only access by canoe. So you're canoeing, you're portaging, which is putting your canoes up on your shoulders, walking through the woods, you're fishing, you're camping, you're cooking over a fire, but there's no cell phone. You're just completely off the grid. You're following your circadian rhythm of the sun. So you go to bed, usually we go in the fall so we can avoid the mosquitoes. We go to bed at probably 8:30. You wake up when the sun gets up and, you got, 10, 11, 12 hours of sleep. You don't necessarily sleep that great on the rocks, but you do your best. And the problem is you come out feeling so alive. And it's really for me about the third day that I stopped. How when you don't have your phone with you, it's really important that your phones don't go with you. In my opinion, I've kind of made that a group rule because I find that by not always having that constant stimulus, especially somebody like myself who, is definitely ADHD and I'm constantly needing that stimulus or that little endorphin rush of like, what's next or who's texting me or, what sports scores am I looking at or all these other things that are getting into our brain. We never give our brains free time, especially me. So I need sort of a forced retreat to do this. And so, we bring phones, but we lock them in plastic bags in case there's an emergency. And that's pretty much it. And it's really simple. You're just in nature and, you're just being with family and friends. And by the third day, I'd love to go for a week, but you really start relaxing. You can feel it in your shoulders. You start relaxing. You feel it in your body. You just feel more in tune with what you are. And then guess what? You start getting these amazing ideas about business, about life. You get sort of energized about all these things. So I'm bringing up this, I'm telling you the story because this is really the mindset. I thought, there's so many people that don't have access to the Boundary Waters. And we had a cabin in Montana for 20 years. So we used to go camping all the time in the mountains. I love probably more than anything else. I love being in the mountains. I love skiing. I just did a ultra trail running marathon here last weekend and just being in the woods in the quiet. It's amazing. It's so energizing. It's kind of wild at how much energy you can get from nature. And I thought, maybe builders, and again, going back to how stressful building is and the community around it is, there's this, I want to fight the stereotype as well that, that builders are fat and hairy and wear flannel and drink beer. And sure, are there those out there like that? Yeah, that's not a big deal. That's not even what I just want to combat. Like, there are a lot of very healthy, triathletes and runners and people are into lifting weights that are just very health conscious that also happen to be builders. And where this came into real clarity is I was out at Contractor Coalition in Huntington Beach, California 2 years ago. And I think I got up at 5:30 to go for a run on the beach. And Caleb McDonald, shout out to him, he's up in Toronto. He's like, hey, I'll go running with you. Let's go. He's a runner. And I'm like, great, let's go running. So we ran on the beach. It was miserable. It was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. The sand was coming up off it was pestering our eyes. And we were just laughing our heads off, having a great time. It was raining. It was just miserable. And then we went back inside and there's a bunch of builders, lifting weights and on the treadmill or Stairmaster or whatever. And it's like the majority of the people here are working out. And it dawned on me at that point in time, like, there are probably a lot more people across the country that are interested in their health and, like athletics and need kind of this in order to operate in their business. It's not just me. It's not just a bunch of people I'm talking to that are passionate. Like, there's a lot more people out there. And so between these two things, the need for seclusion, the need to get away from your phone, and then this community that's very interested in their health and being around others that are like that is what spawned the boot camp idea. So we were going to go down to Costa Rica. And a shout out to Build Her Retreat with Morgan Molitor and a few of the others, Allison Case and Meg Billings and Danielle Gutelli. They had just gone down there. So I'm like, let's switch it up so it's not the same. In future years, we'll probably go to Mexico or Costa Rica, somewhere warm in the winter. But this one, I wanted to be domestic just to make it more affordable and also make it more approachable. So we're going to go to Zion National Park in May 15th through the 18th. And so the goal here is people will fly in. We'll have 3 vans ready so people can come at different times. And from the moment you get off the airplane, we're going to have you check in your phone. There's no phones for these 3 days. That's kind of the whole point, is to kind of get unchecked. We'll have emergency contacts for people. Obviously, if they need to get a hold of somebody, they can get a hold of someone at the camp. And then there's going to be no alcohol. And so the whole point is that every day we're going to kind of have family style lunches, dinners, and meet breakfast together. But Addison Bain, he's an incredible coach. He's down out of Bentonville, Arkansas, coaches the Red Bull mountain biking team, has opened up a number of CrossFit gyms. He's coming up and he's going to lead us through different exercises each day. And again, I don't care if you can run a 5-minute mile or a 20-minute mile. You will sweat, but the effort is really up to you. And because at the end of the day, we're not racing against another person. We're just trying to be the best version of ourselves. And this camp is really to celebrate people that want to celebrate themselves and do something different, do something challenging, but also bond it with other business owners. Because at night when we're on the campfire, we're going to be talking about, how do you structure your day? How do you navigate these difficult situations? And there's going to be some really neat relationships that come out of this. And so we're going to be in Zion National Park, which is one of the most beautiful parks in the world. And we're going to be hiking around. We're actually going to do canyoneering one day. So we'll break up into smaller groups so that, we can rappel down the canyons. And we're going to do some trail running or hiking for those that want to do that. And we're going to have something kind of different in small groups. We're going to limit it to just 20 people. The whole point of this particular experience is that because it's over 3 days, I want the experience to be much more intimate, much more one-on-one. Honestly, even if only 12 people came, that would be enough, because the real strength in this is not the number of people, but it's the depth of the relationship. And I think right now, we have 4 or 5 people that have signed up. So actually, we only have 15 spots available, even as this podcast is airing. And so I'm really, and that's, it's 8 months away. And so if you're interested, you can go to the website for both these things, the CuriousBuilderPodcast.com or CuriousBuilder.com. They're under events, both Sauna Camp and Boot Camp. There's a whole bunch more material there, information, pictures, videos. And so the boot camp, going back to that a little bit more in detail, is I think the morning routine is we're going to, wake up probably around 6:30, or that's the muster time. And, probably like a half hour of breath work, mobility work with Addison, have a light breakfast, do a little bit bigger workout. Most of it will be body weight. Maybe we'll be lugging rocks around the town. I think there's going to be some team building competition stuff where we'll have like teams of 2, teams of 4, things like that, doing some fun challenges. And then we're going to have like an hour of quiet where actually people can't talk. Everyone will be given a journal, and they just get to journal about their time, their thoughts. Maybe it's their business, maybe it's their personal life. Maybe they're just going to space out and, look at the sunrise and drink coffee. That's fine. And the whole idea is just to get kind of quiet inside your own mind. I think it'll be a real challenge for me specifically. We're excited to announce that we've opened up another Curious Collective. For the last year, we've had the Curious Builder Collective. We now have the Curious Builder Collective for designers. The first ones will be happening in September. All the details are going to be on our website. We have 30 spots available. Half of them have already filled. We additionally have 8 spots left in the Builder Collective. If you're interested in getting together in small groups of 9 with local Minneapolis-based builders and designers in separate groups, and talking about your business, talking about your brands, asking those questions that you wish you could ask another business owner, then this is the place for you. Details can be found at the CuriousBuilderPodcast.com. And then at lunch, probably from 11 to 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, it's going to be, outside. We're going to be doing, long hikes into the mountains, exploring Zion National Park, exploring the canyons, and just kind of seeing what there is to offer out there. And then in the evening, we'll have a couple hours of downtime before dinner, and then we'll do family style dinners. And then that night, we'll have a big bonfire every night and, just chill around the bonfire, talk about life, talk about family, talk about your business, talk about whatever people want to talk about. And it's really kind of that. I have found that, I've gone to a number like the Contractor Coalition. Like, obviously I love those. I've spoken about it a lot. I've been to 4 of them now. And, that you're never going to go wrong with that. But a lot of the learning at those is what happens out of the classroom. It's what happens at the dinners. It's what happens at breakfast. It happens on your run on the beach with another crazy Canadian while you're running down the beach in 30-mile-an-hour winds. And so I wanted to sort of isolate those moments and kind of make the whole camp just about those moments. And there's no structure other than sort of the athletic structure. The rest of it is people, when I, as a man, and maybe this is not specific to men, women do it too. My sister and I do it all the time. Like, the best way for us to talk when I go into the mountains with my sister and we go camping or hiking or mountaineering is talking. We're going on an 8-hour hike. Sometimes you're talking about life, your kids, your family, business, whatever. And sometimes you're quiet for an hour. And I just think that, like, while you're exercising and while you're outside, you're getting all these really cool ideas. And so anyway, there's a lot more to share about it, but that's kind of the high level. If you're interested, you can DM me, you can reach out to me, email me. And again, all the information is on the website. Hopefully that answered the 2 questions of why I started Sauna Camp and why I started boot camp. Till next week. Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listen to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at CuriousBuilderPodcast.com.